Hey everybody, what's up? It's Horror Flick Chicks back again for another episode of the Horror Flick Chicks podcast. And we are today talking about episode 3 of The Last of Us. We did episode 1 and 2 on our last podcast. So we're gonna have a recap of every episode every week. So we hope you tune in and check us out. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
So again, this is episode 3, long time, and it was a very interesting episode.
This episode had me all up in my feelings. I swear to God. How about you guys?
Very, very different than what you would
Very
expect
different.
this series to be, which has been.
Right.
But in a good way, I think, because we got a lot of we got some backstory on some new characters this episode, and it was nice. It was a nice love story,
and we got some backstory on Joel.
And we got some more backstory on Joel and Tess as well. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
We did. So I guess let's start. Where should we start? There was a lot going on.
The beginning was pretty much the end of episode 2.
Yes.
Right? Joel and Ellie, they escaped the town hall or wherever they were with Tess, and it's blown up, and then they have to get to a safe zone, another safe zone. Get Ellie.
Yeah, so their mission is still on.
Right.
And we see like a backstory of an individual named Bill.
Well, before we get to that, let's talk about Joel and Ellie walking. They're trying to get to a store that Joel has equipment.
He has equipment and weapons stored there,
things like that. And he's trying to find them, and they're walking past. they're walking past I guess it's like a fire pit.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
With skulls and bones and lots of
that was very sad.
Yeah. There's lots of clothing, things
corpses.
Like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, people were there and burned, but Joel explains it that that the army came to evacuate cities and little towns, and the people who
that was really horrible. So basically, the military is like extinguishing humans, humans who are not infected.
Right. They couldn't fit in the quarantine zone, and it's either get rid of them or risk
them
getting them infected and infecting you. So
they
just got rid of everyone
others and creating this bigger problem. Right. So essentially what was happening was that they were shooting these people. Is mass execution, which is really hard to see in that first scene, because you see a mother and a child and
a baby.
Right. A baby. Ugh. Yeah.
Right.
It's really sad. I don't know.
And I was like, I think this was right before that, when they were in the in that store looking for the weapons, and Ellie went on her own and to look around, and she went.
Did anybody else think something was gonna pop out of that thing?
Yes.
Out of that,
went into that hole,
that basement where she went in.
What are you doing? Yeah. And then she went down, and she threw a rock down there, and I was like, oh, something's gonna jump off a hand or something.
Yeah. And then when she found that infected in the like debris,
it was like a cellar, and the debris in the cellar.
Then, and then she like kind of cuts it with like a knife, and then the thing is like coming out of him.
I thought she was gonna like accidentally step on some of the vine things, and things were gonna come. I thought that's
what I thought. I thought, oh shit, like, is it gonna be like this? Is it just gonna take over right now?
Yeah,
we're gonna see like how much she can tolerate, because who knows? Because after all, if she was infected once and she was okay, can she be infected again, or can she survive something like that? Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, It was interesting though, because I know that she's like obviously very curious because she hasn't really been in the world.
She
And
right.
she hasn't
She doesn't
really
know
seen-
anything about
She doesn't
the
know
world,
anything.
really.
and she hasn't really seen anything about the infected. I mean, there's been a couple of times where she'll ask a question about the infected, and Joel is just like, didn't you go to school?
Yeah.
Like, because at this point they're teaching about this in schools,
Right.
Right.
right? Which whatever.
I mean,
you
whatever
know,
the school is that they have in those quarantine
right,
zones, because that's
exactly.
all they
Whatever
have.
kind of
And,
like,
yeah, I mean, you think about this 20 years later, and she's 14.
Yeah,
yeah.
she
So
hasn't been in a
So she
real
was born
world.
in there.
Yeah.
She doesn't know anything else but that
Right.
world that she's
But
in,
that
and
world.
now she's in a different part of the world because she's out of the outside of the walls.
And I wasn't even thinking about that before this episode. Like I didn't connect for me until this episode when she was saying, "Oh, I've never been in a car," and she was clicking on
Yeah, and she didn't know what a seatbelt was.
in a seatbelt. Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's been a long
Does
time."
she
and
even
she's
know
not-
that Ralph Nader created the seatbelt? Sorry, that was super.
I don't think
nerdy.
they teach that
I'll bring
in,
it back. I'll bring it back, girls.
I don't think they teach that in QZ schools.
No, I don't think so.
think they teach that in most schools.
Well,
It's
yeah.
just that I'm a product of my time. And I might have voted for Ralph Nader back in the day for the Green Party. Anyway, he was the first person I ever voted for. Okay, let's go. Moving on. So, so they're still doing their thing, and then we see the backstory. Can we get into that now?
Yeah,
Go
we'll
ahead.
get to the backstory now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can get there.
So go ahead and introduce
basically right
Joel.
after Joel's talking about that pit where humans were executed, they kind of go to this backstory, showing those people in the town being evacuated. The army's there, loading them into trucks, getting them out of the houses, things like that. They're all leaving the town that they're in, and then
Yeah.
you see a man in a basement or some room. We don't really know it's a basement.
Some kind of bunker.
Like a bunker.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a bunker.
Yeah, because
And-
it's like below level of the basement. So basically, the military comes into this house. They're
Right.
coming into
They went
everybody's
into everyone's house.
property to get rid of people from these
To
areas.
evacuate people, yeah.
And Bill was ready, and he had a bunker, and basically,
Well, because we should say that it's not just because of this. He's a doomsday prepper.
oh yeah,
So he's been prepping for
he's
something
an
like this his
extreme-
whole life.
Yeah, so he's an extreme. This doesn't, please don't go into your conspiracy theories, because I don't know. This poor man was living like this for many, 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 many years before this all happened. And he's a conspiracy theorist, I guess you would call him. And so like he has a distrust of government, and
Yeah.
so he created this space for himself to keep himself safe. And lo and behold, it worked out for him, because they came into the home, walked around, didn't find
find him.
anybody, thought it was an empty home, and left. So at some point, he has the whole setup. He's got cameras. He's looking outside his property, making sure that it's all clear and it's all good for him to come out. So he comes out, and we meet Bill, who is Nick Offerman, the amazing Nick Offerman. And he's like looking around, nobody's there.
Make sure everybody's gone, and then he pretty much just goes and raids the town. He steals somebody's sailboat or boat, and he hooks it up to his truck, and he goes around to like Home Depot and all these places. And my favorite was the liquor store. He went to the liquor store
He did.
and hooked it
And he
up.
got the best.
He got the best stuff.
He got the best wine. I mean, that is definitely something the three of us would do.
Yeah, totally. I
probably would have went there first.
I was like, this guy, this is not great, but in the specific situation, this is great. This guy, because this guy is already prepared for something like this, right? So and then he has like free range, and he can get all the equipment he needs to like keep himself safe and protect himself. Goes to that gun store, gets like guns and ammo and all this
Yeah,
stuff. And
the
then
Home
when he just
Depot or
he went to Home Depot and
Depot,
got
he
some.
went to he got gas and he filled up a bunch
Yeah,
of gas
he got tons of gas, right?
barrels and yeah.
And then when he just drove by, he just looked over and said wine and liquor, and I was like, my man, my man.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're gonna be stuck in this weird ass
Girl,
world by yourself,
listen, you
why
might
not,
as
right?
well drank.
Yep,
You might
that's
as
right.
well drank.
That's right. I loved it. I loved it.
So
So
we
yeah,
see him bringing all these goods back to his home, and you know, honestly, his whole story was like this was all intriguing to me. So like, I know that for some folks, well, we'll get into it, but more into the episode, I know that some folks, especially people who play the game, probably felt like this was a filler episode. And to be honest with you, I'm sure it was. But I don't give a fuck. I loved this episode. I was really intrigued. So we see him come home. Did he hunt something, or he had slack of meat?
yeah,
Well,
he
they did
basically set
show
up his, first of all, he secured like his whole house and his
Yeah.
neighborhood. Like he put an electrified fence like
All
around
over the
not
hood.
just his house, like by his neighborhood. Like it took a
Yeah.
few, blocks probably.
Yeah.
And he set up booby traps. He had security cameras everywhere so he could see anyone that tries to come in, like raiders or anything like that, trying to come in and take his shit or kill him or whatever. He was one step ahead of everybody. He could see everything, and there was one point where one of the infected was coming into his zone, and he hit like a tripwire, and one of the booby traps like and it shot him. So he had and he was just like,
Oh
he
yeah,
got
and he's
everything,
like
like he had
watching
everything.
this on the camera, like, ooh, that must have, ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Um,
he like set himself up, and then at some point he got one of his booby traps, which was like a big hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Someone fell in, and he goes to see who it is, and it's this man. He fell in his booby trap, and he basically said that he was with a group of like 11 or 12 people, and they left another QZ zone that
They were on their
was
way to Boston. He was on his
they
way
were
to Boston.
Mhm.
they were going right. They were going, I guess, to another QZ zone, because the one they were in was destroyed, and it started with 11 or 12 people, but he was the only one left. Like everyone was caught or infected or died. And it was just him, and you can see right away. I feel even when Frank was the character, when he was in the hole, as much before that, when we were getting to know Bill, you could kind of assume he was a pretty much of a hard ass. Like he was like he didn't need to be around anybody else.
He's used to being alone.
He's
He's
used to
like,
being alone. So
listen, I'll help you out, bro, but you need to get the
no,
fuck
but
out of here.
I think when Frank was in the hole, was talking to him before he got him out, he was already getting a little soft. Like,
Oh, he was totally
Yeah.
getting soft.
Yeah.
I mean, you could imagine that he's spent all this time alone, and there's this man who's being very nice and is very vulnerable. And I don't take Bill as a mean guy, even though he comes off, he's like, got him, whatever.
right,
Yeah.
Very rough around the edges, you could tell, but
right.
his softer side, like, immediately came through.
Yeah.
So much so that he helps the dude out of
He
the
helps
hole.
Frank out the hole, and Frank
The guy
basically
is like hungry. He's like, all
Yeah.
right, look, I'll feed you, but you gotta go. He's like, do you have he had hot water? He's like, do you mind if I, clean up? And the guy's like, okay.
As much as he wanted to he liked to be alone, I don't think he really cared so much that he was alone.
Yeah.
A part of him, you could tell, wanted to have some kind of company.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's why he invited Frank in to, even if he just said, oh, I'll give you some food and then you got to leave, kind of thing.
So they
Right.
have a really nice dinner with a very nice bottle of Beaujolais wine
that he got from the liquor store.
that he got from the liquor store, probably an expensive ass
Yeah.
wine. And this guy is like, I'm impressed with you. Look at you. You know how to cook. You know how to, I mean, come on.
And you
Yeah.
picked the right wine because he
I
said
think 'cause
not too
he's
many
so-
people know how to pair this wine with
Right, that's what
rabbit.
he said. And I think he's so rugged looking, and you wouldn't think that he's that classy and sophisticated
Right.
with the food and the
And
wine.
he
So it
even
was
said
like,
as much. He's
oh.
like, I don't look the type, right?
Type.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So, you know, after, you know, I guess he was done, and Frank's like, okay, well, I guess that's it. And, you know, he's like, oh, but, you know, one more thing. And at this point, I have to say that a part of me was like, oh, Bill's gonna tell this motherfucker, you gotta get out of here.
Yeah,
I kept thinking
Stop
that was
For a
gonna
second, I
happen.
felt that too. Yeah.
I was like, stop getting comfortable, because like he could tell that he was like kind of snooping around his house
Yeah.
too.
Mhm.
He was like, he looked over and he saw that he like, you know, swiped his
Yeah.
finger on something, and he said he looked at it and knew that, you know, the dust print or whatever. Anyway, so then Frank is just like, oh, one more thing. This is an antique piano, and this is one of my favorite parts. So, of course, antique piano. He's like Frank is about to sit down and be like, listen to this. I know how to play. So he's going through his bench music, and everybody, you know, musicians know, like, bench music, you keep your music books in there. He was going through the music books. He's like, oh, this, that, whatever. He finds a Linda Ronstadt scorebook, puts the scorebook on the piano, and decides he's going to sing Linda Ronstadt's long time. God. Yes.
Title
Long,
of the
Long Time.
episode.
And oh my God, he sang horribly. And Bill was
Yeah.
just like, please stop it. Stop
And
now.
missed some of the notes on the piano.
And like, he was just not doing so great. And Bill's just like, move over.
No. Okay. He was like, no. Let me show you how it's done.
It's all wrong.
Let me show you how it's done.
You cannot fuck up Linda Ronstadt. I'm just sorry. This is like one of my favorite singers as well. I have Linda Ronstadt. I listen to her LPs like on vinyl. And anyway, so he's like, move over. And he plays the song beautifully.
And sings.
And Frank is just like, and you sing? And he says to him, so what girl are you singing
Who's the girl?
about?
Yeah.
Girl.
Yeah.
And that's when Bill says, there's no girl.
Girl. And he said, I knew that.
And he said, I knew that. And then
Like,
there was an intimacy right after.
And the start of the love story.
The start of the
And
love
then
story.
and
So sweet.
They
I don't
spent a
even
couple
care that
years.
it's a filler episode. Everybody be quiet.
well, it's
They have to do. They have to do that. I feel like when they adapt like games or you know, like a comic book or something into a movie or a show, they have to put filler in.
Yeah, of course they do.
it can't
Otherwise,
be-
like, you can't just put in like the game.
Exactly what's in the game. Exactly
You need to
what's in
learn a little
the
bit about the characters, right? So
And-
this is
and
the
so, just so
backstory of
you-
the character.
yeah. And just so you know, from what I know, in the game, so obviously that whole love story thing did not happen in the game, but there is a Bill and Frank in the game.
Right.
Bill is in the game. Frank is already dead,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think it was like Joel and Bill do connect in the game,
Right.
but they never show Frank. Frank was in Bill's life, obviously, but he was dead. That's
I like this story even
yeah.
better.
So they
Sorry.
expanded it for the show, for this episode. They made it a
Yeah, I
which
like
think is
this
good because
story
we do
even
need
better.
to hear. We do need to see backstory on people, and we saw in the beginning, obviously, the story of Joel, like with his daughter, and we
Right.
saw that. Although we missed several years, but we caught up with some in this episode. Because at one point they had spanned after Bill and Frank met, they spanned a couple years, and then they're together and everything. They're having fights like a normal couple.
Couple, yeah.
And Frank is like, well, we have to mow the
Make
lawn
friends.
and beautify some of this thing because we're making friends.
Right.
And then and then basically right away you see, oh, they having like a dinner party, and it's Bill and Frank and Tess and Joel are there out, you
Yeah.
know. So, and Bill obviously is still skeptical. He has a gun on the table. Like, he's like, I don't know about these people.
Yeah, because he's not, he's worried about everything on the outside. He doesn't know
Yeah.
who's the good and who's bad and who's infected, and
Yeah.
he's
So then, so they have a friendship, and they work out a deal where they can trade.
like barter system. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things at the QZ zone that Bill and Frank don't have at the home, and there's a lot of things that Bill and Frank have that they don't have at the QZ zone. So, they worked out a system where they could trade with each other and barter and things like that. So that's what the friendship started that way, and then and there's even a scene where Joel even says at one point, there's there are raiders and stuff around. They'll find this place and they'll come in at night, whatever. And they do. But Bill's prepared.
Yeah.
Right? He's out there, he's shooting them, he's
In the middle of the night, Frank
middle of
wakes
the
up
night.
to gunfire, and he can't find Bill, and he's outside shooting at these raiders trying to get past the fence that he has. And in the whole mess, Bill gets shot, and Frank brings him in. What I thought was weird is, like, Bill got shot, he brought him in, but then I guess all the raiders were dead at that point, because there was a lot of Bill was doing a lot of shooting, and I think the electrical fence was still on, so they got, and it was
I think that's what it
rainy.
was. They couldn't really get through that.
Okay, so
because I thought the same thing. The door was open. They left the door open.
Yeah, they left the door open.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Frank pulled Bill in, trying to help his wound and clean the wound and heal him up. But he left the door open. It's like, dude, like, there's people outside trying to get in.
I think it was the fence,
but
they couldn't get through the fence, so it was.
And I think most of them were probably dead already,
probably.
or if not all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that happens, and again, Frank is there to save him and help him, because that's his man, right?
Yeah.
Right. And again, it spans a few more years, and they're older. And
now they're in the present time.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And Frank is sick, and they don't say what he has, right?
They never say
No, they don't say what he has, but it's obviously
maybe they'll bring that up in another episode.
It's some kind of debilitating, disease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Frank tells Bill, listen, it's time for me to go. I can't survive this.
This is my last day, he said.
I wouldn't be able to survive this even if none of this even happens. Mm-hmm. So he tells him his wishes, and he decides that, break up all the pills, have one last good day with me. I've had good days and I've had bad days. And both of those with you, and I want to have one more last good day. So Bill goes along with his wishes, and they have a nice, dinner, and he breaks up the pills, puts it in his wine. And I was like, this is bullshit. Why would he do this and then live in this world without him? I was dying. And then I knew it. He did exactly what I thought, or at least I hoped he would do. And he put a ton of it in the bottle, and he also went with him. So the both of them went together, went in the bed, very
like Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet. Like
Frank even says at one point, this is very romantic.
Yeah, he said, I really should be angry with you right now, but this is very romantic. Anyway, Joel comes back to the house. Ellie finds a note to Joel or whomever.
To Joel and Tess, because they don't know that Tess
Joel and Tess
dead.
Or whomever.
Right.
Ellie opens it, reads it, and she's like, I guess I fit into the whomever category.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. And he reads it, and he's like, and it says something to the effect like, take care of Tess. And you could see this look on Joel's face, like, Anyway, they leave keys.
And don't look in the bedroom or don't
he
look in the
gets-
other room because they were in the
Yeah.
other room.
And he said we
Yeah.
left the window open so it wouldn't smell. It was so sad.
Yeah.
Anyway, but he gets a key and he gets a truck and has access now. And they flee. They leave.
Yeah.
Joel
And they
and
get to
Ellie are
take, but
on
it's
their
nice.
way.
They get to kind of like Ellie gets to take a shower, and they get to
Yeah.
get the weapons from the house and
Right.
take things that they need from the house and things like that. And then and then they have the car and they get to leave.
So they get in the
Next
car
station.
and guess what? Ellie finds a tape and it's a Linda Ronstadt tape. And
Right.
the last song also is Long, Long Time. And Joel is just like, do you even know who this is? That would be me. I'd be like, do you even know who this is? Anyway, very sweet. And I also want to point out another musical thing happened towards the middle, which was an Erasure song, Chains of Love, which is an 80s song. Again, 80s trouble.
Oh, and
70s?
then- yeah.
Does anybody
That's what
remember?
they mentioned that too when
Yeah.
in part of the episode they did mention about some
We should have
code
code.
that they would
Yeah,
do.
code,
80s is
right.
trouble, and I forget 70s is
It's
something
safe, I think.
safe or
It might
something.
be
It's safe.
safe.
Okay. So
Yeah, they
yeah,
did.
I mean, very sweet because so they're safe. So they're on their way. Linda Ronstadt playing freaking phenomenal episode.
Very
I don't care if
beautiful.
it's filler.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Oh, I didn't
So-
hear much about it being like from people saying it's filler. All I heard was that how it was a great episode, that how it's beautiful.
Beautiful. It was
and-
beautifully
And
done.
I've only heard positive things about it so far. So
Yeah.
And we should
Yeah, that's
also
good, I
say,
think.
I don't remember if we said it on the last podcast that we did for episodes 1 and 2, but at the end of the episode, after the credits, they do a behind the episode, little like 5 minutes behind the episode, and they talk about the episode, the directors, the writers, and some of the actors, and they talk
I need
about
to watch that.
they
I have to
talk
tell
about
you, after
which is
this
great.
one, after this one, I was like, ah!
which is
And I
great
was
because they
texting
because
the
they kind
girls,
of
like,
they go
I can't wait
into
to talk about this.
they go into the episodes a little bit deeper. I mean, it's
Yeah,
only
it's
like
about
5 minutes or
5
so.
minutes or so.
I'm
But it's
definitely
nice to
gonna
watch
listen
it right
to
after the
next time.
episode. You watch it and you could get a little more insight on certain things. So it's really nice. So make sure you
That's
guys,
good. Thank you for reminding me. I need
make
to
sure
do
you
that.
guys check it
Because
out.
I
'cause
like stopped it right away, and I was
Yeah,
like,
it's good.
"Yeah."
No. And you have to see what happens next time.
It was
The next-
great.
Yes,
next-
they have-
next
they
week's
have-
See, that's
episode-
sometimes I don't like that. Sometimes I don't want to see what's happening next, so I stop it for that reason.
Oh,
but anyway,
I like to watch what's gonna happen.
Well,
anyway,
you don't have to watch that, but definitely watch the like behind the episode thing because I think that's really good
yeah,
on the episode. So
But
anyway.
yeah, the
Great.
next episode is gonna be good.
I can't wait.
Back to the
Yeah.
action, back to the
Yay!
heart of,
Yeah.
of the game and
Thank
stuff.
you,
So that's really
girls.
cool. But thanks everybody. Thanks for listening to us today, and we'll be back to recap episode 4 in the next episode of our podcast, the Horror Flick Chicks podcast. Make sure you follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can also hear us on various audio platforms, and also you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Right?
That's right.
Yeah, and until next time, we're signing out. This is Sonia and Sandra and Angie. Peace, love, and horror.
Bye, guys.
Bye.